Hey everyone, we are beginning to start week 3. So, with that in mind, I wanted to talk to you about the milestone 1 job offer comparison assignment that is due by the end of this week. And I've said it, but I want to make sure that we really know this, so I'm going to repeat myself. The milestone 1 and milestone 2 assignments are pieces that are meant to be part of your final project, which you're going to turn in week 7. Basically, the idea is that you're going to do milestone 1, and then in a subsequent week, you're going to do your milestone 2. I'm going to give you feedback on those 2 submissions. You're going to make improvements based on the feedback that I've given you, and they're actually going to be part of your final submission that you turn in week 7, which, by the way, in case you haven't looked yet, is a 200-point project. So thinking about the number of points that a lot of our other assignments have been worth, 200 points, that's a lot. So we really want to make sure we do a good job. So the more that you put into these first couple of milestone assignments, the easier it's going to be for you at the end, because you're just going to use that product and put it towards your final project. So before I click on this activity and give you some pointers and a few things to look out for, I want to remind you that the information you're supposed to use for this stuff is back here in Module 2. So I'm going to click on Module 2 over here in the menu. First impressions and decision making. And remember that what you did this past week in week 2 is that you chose a track, whether it was humanities, communications, or design, and you looked at the job offer letters that went along with each of those tracks. So you're still using the same jobs from the job offer letters. You're not making up your own stuff. You're still using this information from the previous week's assignment. So I'm going to go back to week 3. Go back to our project. So I'm going to click on right here where this link says Milestone 1, Guidelines and Rubric. And over the course of the many assignments that I've graded over this assignment, a lot of the same questions have come up, so I wanted to go ahead and just clarify those questions that I already know that some of you are going to have in advance. And I also wanted to go ahead and let you know about a few common mistakes and opportunities for improvement I've seen as I've graded these assignments over time, so that you can be on the lookout and make sure that you don't make those mistakes. So once you've clicked on the guideline and rubric, you'll see that it gives you an overview of the project, and then the prompt, the questions that you're supposed to answer, are down here in this area. And you've got a few options for how you want to turn in this assignment to me. You can either take the questions and you can copy and paste them into a Word document and you can answer them there, or if you scroll down here, right here, this link that says Milestone 1 Template, that is a Word document that you can already just download to your computer. And it's a nice little template that has the same questions from the prompt. It's just here in these nice little boxes, so it's nice and laid out for you already. And to be honest, this is my preference. If you want to type it on your own paper, it's fine. But for me to grade it, it really is a little bit easier if you just type in the box, answer each question, because it helps me to be clear about what part of the prompt you're addressing at that particular moment in time. So if you'd like to make things easier for me, it'd be great if you just go ahead and use this template, even though you don't necessarily have to. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here and go back. So you'll see the whole prompt is this whole, right here. All of this is going to be the questions that you need to answer for your milestone 1. But again, all those questions are already nice and laid out in that template if you choose to use it. So I'm going to scroll down here because the rubric, what I actually use, this is the exact same wording that I use to grade when you submit this assignment, is down here below underneath the project guidelines. And there are a few things that I would like to point out to you. I'm going to zoom in and point out to you a few things that I have noticed over time people have a tendency to leave out. So the first one says, because of course we're all shooting for this proficient 100% category, right? So we're going to look at what that 100% is going to be asking you for, so that I can give you that 100% when I'm grading it. So for example, you outline the job characteristics that are important to you, and here's what we have a tendency to leave out. Explain your reasoning. Please make sure that you don't just tell me what job characteristics are important to you, but you tell me why. Same thing when we get down here to location. So a lot of people remember to do this part, compares the jobs in terms of the distance, commute, impact, all of this. Okay, so that's all the information that I need. But then it also says showing calculations. Sometimes people will give me a really good written explanation, but they won't show me those calculations that I need in order to give you the 100%. So a lot of the time what happens is that people end up, instead of the 100% of the rubric, we end up somewhere over here in needs improvement. And of course we all want to shoot for that proficient 100% category. In the next area, salary reasonable. So it says calculates a reasonable salary for each job using data from BLS.gov and explains how each figure was determined. So first of all, let me talk to you about what this BLS.gov is. There is a link to a website up here in the project guidelines. Let me zoom back out. Right here, this link that says BLS.gov. That is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It is a government website that helps you to estimate based on a lot of different factors. The biggest one definitely being location. What you could expect to make for certain jobs if you go to different places around the United States. So the expectation is that you're going to click on this website and you're going to come here to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I know that, oh, bam, all of a sudden there's a lot of stuff on this page, right? Which can be a little intimidating. Please don't let it get you stressed out. A great place to start, see the search box right here. Let's say you are trying to find, you want to be the assistant curator, like you've chosen that track. So you're looking for about what you might be expected to make if you're an assistant curator. Okay, so start by just typing that information into the search box, and it's going to give you a good place to start. And then there are a lot of things that you can do, like choose a location, stuff like that, to come up with what a reasonable estimate would be for an assistant curator job. Now, what I'd like to point out to you in the rubric, this is another place that people have a tendency to go wrong. So for the 3 jobs that you are using from your job offer letters, for each of those jobs, you are going to calculate a reasonable salary based on the BLS.gov website. Here's what people have a tendency to leave off. Again, explain how each figure was determined. I do not need you to write me a big novel about, I don't need you to write a lot, but I do need you to tell me how you got that figure. Did you type it in the search box and then you went to, a specific location and you looked there? As long as you tell me what you did and how you got there. Maybe there was a particular table that you used, because there's lots of tables on that website. Again, just tell me where it came from and what you did. Please don't just say, according to the BLS.gov website, this is a reasonable salary. Please tell me what you clicked, what table you used, whether you did it by location or not, what the steps were that you took to get there. Because if not, you'll notice that is when we go from the 100% to over here, no explanation for how figures are reached is provided. Okay, so that's when we get over from the proficient to the needs improvement section when I'm having to grade it. And again, you don't have to write a lot, but I need you to give me some kind of explanation for, what table you got it from, something like that. Another thing that I get a lot of questions about is the next category, because part of the prompt is going to ask you to determine taxes. So let's go back up to where we see that in the prompt. I'm going to zoom back out here. And what I'm looking at right here is the Roman numeral 2 section. Calculate the starting income each position will provide you after taxes. I'm going to stop there for a second, because I understand why sometimes we need clarification about this. So in bullet number 1, which you just answered using the BLS website, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, so you just found an estimate from the BLS. So it makes sense that you would be thinking that you're going to use those salaries here for bullet number 2. And that is actually not what the intention is. Bullet number 1, or section number 1 right here, is the only section. So I want you to give me a good estimate from that BLS website. Tell me how you got it and call it a day with that. Bullet 2 and 3 actually involve the salaries from the job offer letters. So I'm going to make that nice and big for you. So bullet number 1, or section number 1 in the green, you're using the BLS website. However, parts 2 and 3, you are using the 3 job offer letters that you had, or that you were given last week. Now, another thing that I frequently get a lot of questions about is bullet number 2, where it says calculate the income after taxes with a flat tax rate of 30%. We usually do fine with that. Okay, you pay 30% tax rate, so how much is left over? But then sometimes people get confused about what we mean by the 5-year mark after taxes using a flat tax rate of 32%. Because a lot of the job offer letters, now there are a couple of them that do tell you how much of a raise you could expect over the course of every year. Most of them do not include a raise. So it's reasonable for the purposes of this project to assume that 5 years later, unless the letter specifically tells you you're going to be getting a raise, 5 years later you might be making the same amount of money. Goodness knows, as a teacher, I definitely know that happens a lot. The reason that we're doing the 32% tax rate is that maybe you don't get a raise that makes you pay a higher tax rate, but taxes go up all the time. That is definitely a possibility. Maybe you're still making the same amount of money, but taxes have gone up. So now, instead of the 30% tax rate you were paying when you first got your job, 5 years later you're making the same salary, but now you're paying a 32% tax rate. So don't let that throw you off. If the job offer letter doesn't say you're making a raise, just calculate each of those tax rates using the same income. Okay, and then the last part that I get a lot of questions about are right here, correctly determines the amount of retirement savings at 5, 10, and 20 years. So I just want to point out to you that not all of the job offer letters are going to have a retirement package. So the prompt does give you some assumptions to make if your job offer letter doesn't include that retirement. I'm not going to read that part to you. It is up in the prompt. Please don't disregard that. I get a lot of people that give me this submission and say, oh, well, that job offer letter didn't tell me anything about retirement, so I'm not doing those calculations. Well, yes, you are. Well, you are if you would like to make sure if you get all your points, I guess I should say. So please make sure that you read that part of the prompt that tells you what to do if your job does not actually offer a retirement. So those are pretty much some of the most common mistakes I see. Definitely addresses a lot of the questions that I have a tendency to get about this assignment. But as always, if I have not answered your question or if you need more clarification, please let me know. I'm excited to read these. You guys have been an awesome class so far. And so I think you're going to do a really great job on this. So I can't wait.